Now, I was poking around and thinking, who are the transfers poised to make the biggest impact, combining both their talent level and the situation that they are going to? These are two separate factors that went into my determination for the 5 most impactful transfer quarterbacks going into next season. Number one, I don't know that this is going to be a popular take. Will Howard at Ohio State. Will Howard was the quarterback of the 2022 big champion Kansas State Wildcats. He has been pushed out of the starting role to pave the way for Avery Johnson, a talented young quarterback and a very mobile guy himself. Howard is a rather prototypical pocket passer. He's got some mobility, but he's someone who makes his plays from the pocket. I have him at number 1 is making the biggest impact because of where he has decided to transfer to. Will Howard is no longer a Kansas State Wildcat. He is going to be an Ohio State Buckeye. Ryan Day's track record with quarterbacks, I don't know if you've looked at it. I'll just kind of run it through. I'll give it the old college try, as it were, to let you know what this guy has done with quarterbacks. Justin Fields, they got to the national championship game together. CJ Stroud, that's a guy who, is currently tearing it up into the divisional round of the NFL with the Houston Texans and threw for about a bajillion yards whilst at Ohio State. And then this past season, you had Kyle McCord. And Kyle McCord was a very talented freshman. He is going off to Syracuse. He doesn't make this top 5 list. He'd be an honorable mention sort of candidate for the ACC next year. He's a guy who can make some plays, but certainly needed a good bit more development. And so Ryan Day looked at Kyle McCord and they decided, nope, this is not a partnership we're going to continue to pursue. And they had a bunch of other young guys. They had Devin Brown. They've got Dylan Raiola coming in. There are options in that quarterback room, and then Will Howard became available. Ryan Day was adamant going into their New Year's Six bowl game against Missouri, a game in which they lost and the offense struggled mightily with those young quarterbacks. Contrast that to USC, for instance, who went in with a young quarterback and decided, well, this guy might be our starter in 2024. Kind of looks like Miller Moss is the dude in Los Angeles for Lincoln Riley next year, led them to a Holiday Bowl victory over Louisville. For all you who think bowl season doesn't matter, I present the 2023 Holiday Bowl. But I digress. Will Howard is someone who, once he became available, was going to go to USC. And then Miller Moss had his big game. That kind of scared Will Howard off a little bit. At least that's how it looks from the outset. And Ryan Day said, hold on. Will Howard? That Will Howard? The Will Howard? Kansas State's former quarterback? Will Howard? Oh, I would like that guy. This selection, to have Howard at the top, is putting my faith in Ryan Day because of his track record of coaching quarterbacks. I think if Kyle McCord had stayed at Ohio State, he would have taken a step forward and been a significantly improved player and could have become an all-conference caliber guy in a revamped and loaded Big Ten conference that'll have plenty of good quarterback play next year. But instead, Ryan Day said, instead of developing a young guy, and these dudes all have talent in their own right, I want that guy there because I think he can help us. This is me putting my faith in Ryan Day and saying, hey, he has had a pretty good eye for the quarterback position during his college career as a head coach. And Will Howard is a guy who's got plenty of experience. He doesn't need a bunch of development. He needs the right system. Tell me, do you think the offensive weapons that were afforded to him, he had a great running back in Deuce Vaughn, no doubt. Do you think the offensive weapons that Kansas State had on the perimeter when he was there are going to be comparable to what Ohio State is going to be able to put around him? Because last time I checked, that's wide receiver U. So Will Howard, he's number 1. Number 2, Dylan Gabriel, back west in Oregon. That's a Big Ten school, by the way. I feel obliged to remind people of that because it's more than a little strange to me. I got to be honest, it's not going to feel real until they play a conference game against Illinois or Michigan State is their first non-traditional conference opponent. But again, I digress. There's just so much to get to on the show today. Dylan Gabriel's going into a system in which he has had a lot of success. That's the offensive coordinator, Will Stein, by the way. His quarterback numbers have also been quite good. He's got a bunch of great weapons. They brought in Evan Stewart, a former 5-star wideout from Texas A&M, to go with a bunch of returners, including Tez Johnson, who was a 1,000-yard receiver. They returned several starters from a Joe Moore finalist for the best offensive line in college football. Dylan Gabriel can have a lot of success. He completed about just under 70% of his passes last year, went for over 3,600 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 6 picks. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel, I think he's going to succeed with the Ducks. Next on the list, Riley Leonard going to Notre Dame. I didn't think Sam Hartman was bad this year. I also didn't think Sam Hartman was as good as Riley Leonard. I think when you looked at what Hartman brought to the table, going from Wake Forest to Notre Dame this past offseason, I personally was more impressed with what Riley Leonard was doing at Duke. And I think if you give him the right atmosphere, the right environment, the right offense, I think he can make a really big impact there and lead the Irish potentially to a college football playoff berth. That's a guy who's got NFL potential, I think more so than Sam Hartman. And I think if Riley Leonard comes in and they are running an offense that suits what he's going to be able to do and maximizes his potential, I think that could be a really, really good situation for the Irish and Marcus Freeman. Next on the list is Cam Ward. This is more about Cam Ward than the situation he's decided to go to. Do you remember Cam Ward? Do you remember the last time we heard from Cam Ward? Let's Joker style in 2008, RIP Heath Ledger. Let's wind the clocks back a year. Not a year, but maybe like a month or so, a few weeks ago. Cam Ward released a public statement declaring for the NFL draft. That was after he'd had conversations with Miami and some other schools, but Miami was kind of the school, and he decided, nah, I'm going to the NFL draft. Well, something has flipped. A switch has flipped, and Cam Ward is going to Miami. Now, Mario Cristobal's track record with quarterbacks is poor. There is no other way to look at it. I am sorry, Canes fans, but if you look at what he did at Oregon and not maximizing the talent of Justin Herbert, not being able to develop Tyler Shuck, not getting great results from Anthony Brown. Then you go Tyler Van Dyke. Well, he's off to Wisconsin now because it didn't work out as well as everyone was hoping down there in Coral Gables. I think Cam Ward is a mega talent. I think he is a mega talent. I don't know how this is going to fit offensively, but I put Cam Ward at number 4 because that guy can make NFL throws. He can make big time plays. He can be a little turnover prone. He absolutely can. But you know what you're going to do in a Miami offense? You're going to run the football, and that's something he didn't have up at Washington State, a consistent ground game. Very interested to see how that plays out. We might talk about him more later this week on the show. And lastly, one of the big hot commodities. This was almost an Oregon State situation. Instead, it's a Duke conversation with their new head coach, Manny Diaz. And Manny Diaz goes to replace Mike Elko, who goes to Texas A&M. The portal and the coaching carousels can be a little bit much. They can be a little bit much to keep track of, which is why we cover it all right here on Locked On College Football. Malik Murphy is a guy who I have seen play Power 5 football games, be productive, and win. How many teams in college football would like to be able to say that about their quarterback situation? Heck, the place he almost went to, Oregon State, the Beavs have a couple of guys in Giovanni McCoy from Idaho and Jabari Johnson from Missouri who they cannot say that about. Talented guys in their own right. Potential is very real. Malik Murphy was a hot commodity in the portal, so hot that he left before the Sugar Bowl because of the wacky, messed up world that is the college football schedule. But he decides to go to Duke. Manny Diaz slides in for Mike Elko, and he's got a quarterback who can help him win games. I don't know how many they're going to win in year one. This isn't a schedule breakdown. This is a quarterback breakdown. But that is such an advantage for Manny Diaz and the Blue Devils to be able to say, I have a quarterback at the helm of my offense who I know if we give the right pieces to, if we coach correctly, if we play well, we can win football games. How many? Well, that comes down to a number of other factors. But quarterback is not going to be something that holds them back. He may not be a Heisman finalist or the reason you win, but he was a highly sought after transfer for a reason. So I think those are the 5 most impactful quarterback transfers in all of college football going into next year. Will Howard at Ohio State, Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, Riley Leonard at Notre Dame, Cam Ward at Miami, and last and certainly not least, technically in this list, but not really, Malik Murphy at Duke.